welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I'm a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Happy Tuesday. It is How to Tarot Tuesday, and what that is every week, you, the viewer, get to check out one of the 78 card tarot. What I do is the first deck is always the Rider-Waite-Smith, and the other two decks I choose based on what I think best represents the card that we're discussing. The first part of the video is dedicated to an overview of the meaning of the card. So we look at the symbolisms of the card that we're discussing. And then the second half of the video, you, the watcher, get to choose from the 3 tarot decks. And we'll go ahead and do a card spread to see how this card is currently manifesting in your life. Today we are discussing the Knight of Swords. And when we get to the reading part, I'm going to be clarifying using the Intuit Oracle deck. All of the names and the authors of the decks that I use are in the description box below, as are the timestamps if you want to jump straight to your reading. So today we're just going to jump right in, and that's actually a very apt energy given the card in question. Today we are talking about the Knight of Swords. And the Knight of Swords is really an exciting card. I was actually kind of looking forward to this knight. And, you know, he represents the air signs, and he represents a lot of energy. He's like the higher octave of the page, of whom we spoke about last week. But we're going to go ahead and jump right in. And again, anytime if you want to jump straight to your reading, the timestamps are in the description box. So if you don't want to participate in the how-to part, please feel free to click the timestamp and go straight to the reading instead. But the Knight of Swords is really an interesting character. When you look at the card, you see a knight on horseback. You see him running full gallop into the fray. He's holding a sword upright as if he's right in the heat of battle. When you look up close, you see kind of a desert climate in the background. It looks a little desolate. And then in the sky, you see gray clouds, and you see the blowing of wind. Just like the page, you get a strong sense of blowing air, right? The horse's mane is also blowing the wind, and you can tell he is full gallop. Just like the higher, just like the king and the queen, there are butterflies, which kind of means transformation. And then you see that the knight is armored, but he has his faceplate pulled up. And in the distance, you do see birds that are flying at different angles. So you see someone who is running right into the fray. He's galloping headfirst into the fray of a situation. Now, the Knight of Swords means a lot to me because, to put the astrologer hat on for a minute, he does represent air signs, which can be Libra, Gemini, or Aquarius. When I went through the Page of Knights, the Page of Swords reading last week, I talked a little bit about the air signs, and that I was probably a little tough on them, and I hope no one took offense. I have a stellium in Libra, and my mother has a Mars in Gemini, and she has a moon that's at the late degrees of Gemini, and I have other planets in my chart which are late Leo, which really support her Geminian influence. But what it is that I'm a big supporter of that mercurial kind of energy. Another really great reader here on YouTube, her name is Jess Puckett. She goes by the Chaos Witch. I think she said in readings that she is a sun sign Gemini, and she even said it quite articulately, you know, per her sun, that Geminis tend to, they confuse other people, but they tend to confuse themselves as well. It's almost like, but the beautiful thing about Geminian energy, or even Libra or Aquarius, is that they're very cutting edge, right? They're in the know. Right, they're the energy that isn't afraid of. They are the news makers. They are the news trackers. They are they are in the front lines of understanding the newest trends, the newest gossip. But And she was correct in the fact that, yes, Gemini is the mutable sign, where sometimes the reason we're going to get into this is because the Knight of Swords, just like the Page of Swords, is like the router's wire. It's like cutting edge news, right? And so it's kind of important that the air signs are like that. You know, Libras are very balanced. They're the lawmakers. They tend to be fair, and they like to make everything equal. They want to make sure that everything's on par. Aquarians are the altruistic group. They're the humanitarians. They care about ethics and fair treatment. And then Geminis they're the newsmakers. If you look at the chart, the astrological chart of any writer or any journalist, any newspaper writer or magazine article writer, pretty much anyone who conveys a story, you'll see some kind of Gemini influence, whether it be third house, whether it be their Mercury placement or the sign of Gemini. But the first thing that you see, that first thing that you think when you see the Knight, because the Page is the novice, right? Last week we talked about the Page. The Page is someone who's learning how to communicate, someone who's new at it, who's green, wet behind the ears, someone who's green, right? The Knight is not green. The knight is not a king, not a queen, so they're not the mature manifestation, but they've been around the block a few times, right? So it does make them a step up from a page. And the first thing that you think is, this person has seen a little bit of action, right? The other thing is that knights go on missions, and they tend to be like the early 20s energy, like the age 20 to 30, right? Or you're acting as if you're in that energy. And what that is that's someone who's college age, right? That's someone who's making their way in the world. The other thing is that when you see armor, you're not a child. You're not a child. You've gone beyond the surface level of an adult environment. So you're really making your way in the world, right? You're not a king or a queen. And the other thing that I kind of get with that is when you see the birds in the upper right-hand corner, they seem they're not in formation. It was the same thing with the page. They're not in formation, so you're still learning, right? You're still learning, but you're a little bit more seasoned than a page. You're not a child. You've had a few real-world experiences. The other thing that I get is that you're well on your way to learning how to communicate, and you're learning how to the other thing is I'm learning that you're learning how to do battle. You're learning how to go up against conflicting opinions. But the first thing that you think of, and with this person running head first, with the wind blowing in their face, with armor clad and sword raised, the first thing that I think is it's a conveyance of information. So the first thing that I think is someone's going to come in and convey important information, and they've been put on a mission to tell you this information. So if you see this in a read, the first thing that I think is important information that you need to know is coming your way, and it's coming to your way with its hair on fire, right? Because you see all this red, right? You see passion. The other thing is you see someone who's passionate about conveying this information. Somebody's whipped into a froth to tell you something. And in a minute we'll get to that. Let me tell you something, But so the first thing I think is kind of the router's wire, but I think of it in a more formal context than the page. If it's a knight, it's someone who's reporting to you. This could be this can be an employee, and if you're the head of your team, or if you're a leader, it can be someone relaying important information to you. It could literally be the news, where you're getting your information from the news. It can be, and again, this news is on fire. It could be something really dramatic that's happened, because I do see this card as I think of who was it who ran through the British are coming. The British are coming. The jumping on your horse and alerting people that something is going on. That's the Knight of Swords energy. It can be, sometimes it can be someone who's real new at something that might be, rushing up to you and asking for help. If you're training someone and being like, well, I've got this going on. What do I do? What do I do? And again, they're not a page. They've had some experience, but it's almost like a trainee's energy. So if you're training somebody or cross-training somebody who's good at what they do, but they're not a king or a queen yet, that might be coming up to you, to get information. Now, the other thing that we kind of get with this is that sometimes it can be someone who, it can be an unexpected situation that you were not prepared for, and that, literally it's coming across your plate. Sometimes this can be news in the sense that, something unexpected happened. Sometimes if it's on a higher scale, maybe you've got damage control to do. Sometimes in a political or legal sense, like if you see this around justice, you might be a new lawyer or someone who's just out of law school, and you're just, you're taking on your first case, and it's you're trained, but you're not as experienced as as the career lawyer you're going up against. Sometimes I think of that scene from My Cousin Vinny, with Marissa Tomei when she was just like on the stand. Sometimes you're getting kind of lucky with the hit or miss because you're going into it so passionately. Now, the other thing is, like, similar to the Page of Swords, sometimes you can be really rushing in a little prematurely. I think that you have more information than you do than a page does. I mean, you're not a novice, but sometimes you can still be going in a little bit hot. So definitely the Knight of Wands can be someone who's a little outspoken or a little bit blunt. And when it comes to the knights, and especially with the Knight of Swords, because I always say the pun of a double-edged sword, you've heard the phrase double-edged sword, that definitely pertains to a knight's energy, because a lot of times the knights can be a little bit gruff in the way that they speak. And it's funny, it's almost like they facilitate, they kind of waffle, they go back and forth. One minute they can be very verbally eloquent, and then the next minute they can be kind of, being a little bit rude to people. It's funny, I know a lot of people, if you're in North America, a lot of people have been watching the Netflix show The Crown, and I watched this really great documentary about Princess Anne, and she's a little bit like that. It's funny, she's very regal in the way that she presents herself, but if she's not happy with a question, or if somebody approaches her at a wrong time, she can turn around and really kind of tell you off. And that is definitely the Knight of Swords energy. The other thing is that if somebody really has had enough of something, and again, it's kind of I think of it of like a ripple effect. You're a greater octave. When you're a knight, you're a greater octave than the page. And you have armor. This, you've been round around a little bit. You have more experience than a child, right? Sometimes the knight can be that, maybe someone has poked you and poked you and poked you, and you're finally ready to fight back. But the thing that I kind of see is that this is a premeditation. Like, you've had enough, and you're putting armor on because you've had enough, and you're ready to tell someone off. So definitely the Knight of Swords can be the tell someone off kind of energy. It can definitely be someone who's really kind of pissed off. The other thing that I kind of get is sometimes this can be a brooding energy. One thing that I will point out is that if you look at the halter on the horse, it kind of looks like a heart. And then when you look at the things, it kind of looks like bats and then butterflies. It's this strange kind of amalgam of energy. But it's definitely, it's you riding in, ready to go, run down the list of what you want to tell someone. And sometimes it can be from a source of anger. Like if you see this next to a card that represents a little bit of a hot temper, if you see this next to the Five of Wands or the Five of Swords, I'd be scared if you see this next to the Five of Swords, because when Five of Swords is a win-lose situation, and the Knight of Swords is really, really good. Again, they're very concise in the way it's almost like you're prepared to do battle. You know what you're going to say, right? So the other thing is that if you're again, and if you're whipped into a frenzy because you see grace, you see angry skies and a blowing wind, and this is not a natural blowing wind. That looks like a hurricane, like the beginnings of a hurricane, right? You know, um, someone might have really pissed you off. Either that or someone might have the story wrong and you really want to set them straight. So the Knight of Swords can be a setting someone straight kind of energy. But if you see it next to the Five of Swords, it's not a fair situation. If you see this next to Justice, I would see that almost like a legal battle where you want to defend yourself. Either that or you want it to be fair. You want to you possibly, I would see that as a situation where maybe you've received a little bit of slander and you're going into it, to defend yourself. If you see this next to the Five of Swords, it's a win-lose situation where the other thing is it's a little bit of a caution that if you go in half-cocked, because this is still a young energy, you're more experienced than a page, but the problem is you can really tear someone down. If who you're going up against does not have armor, like if you're going against a page, or the other thing is if you're going against another knight, oh my god, that's going to be on like Donkey Kong. If you see this going against the Knight of Wands or the Knight of Pentacles, that would be interesting. But a lot of times it just means that you can really tear someone down with your words. It does mean that someone, even though it's a brusque manner, you get to the point, you definitely break it down. The Knight of Swords does not mince words. They will tell you what they think in every way, and the thing is they're very concise about it. And it's funny, I have a stellium in Libra, and it's square a moon and Mars in a moon and Mars in Cancer. And oh my gosh, guys, it's funny. I keep my mind and my emotions on the level. I like to keep those balanced scales. But when I get pissed off, sorry, just gonna say it. The other thing is my Venus is in Virgo, and it's in mutual reception with my mouth, which is also in Libra. I have found that it's funny. I either get so paralyzed that I don't know what to say, but when I'm not paralyzed and when my mouth opens and the Knight of Swords comes out. And one of those things is, it isn't that the Knight of Swords isn't good, because there's been moments in my life where I've opened my mouth and I've gone down the list, and it's like I wielded that sword. It's like I went to war and I won. But once it's done, it's like, oh my God, it was like verbal annihilation is what it was like. And it's not, it's not encouraging that, but it's the nature of the energy. The nature of the energy is that if you had kept quiet for so long and you finally just pick up your sword and like, you know what? Let me tell you something. Let me tell you what I really think. And if you really say what you really think, if it's coming out in the Knight of Swords, it might be cautioning you a little bit that it's not a holding your tongue energy. And after it's done, you might have done a little bit of damage, because again, I think it's less damage than the page, but it's still, if the person wasn't prepared, you can really cut someone down. It's honest. The thing is, it's honest. You're telling someone what you really think. You're holding no punches. But the problem is the other person, the thing is that with it being a night energy, the other person's probably going to think about it for years afterwards, even though it came out, it tumbled out of your mouth over the course of like 3 minutes. And that's a little bit of a hard energy to deal with. The other thing is that if you're looking at this in a relationship spread, if you're coming out in the Knight of Swords energy, the other person has a lot to deal with, right? It's a swift or impulsive action. Again, also it could be someone who has to come to you with really a lot of information. It's funny when I see this, like if I see my significator with the knight coming towards me, I'm like, oh, Crap. Now, first off, my significator is the Queen of Swords, which we're going to be talking about next week. And anytime you see this next to like a king or a queen, you really don't have too much to fear, because the kings and the queens are always sitting on their throne and they're ready, like nothing phases them. And that's the other thing about the Knight, is that sometimes it can be that young energy, like someone's rushing in like, oh my God, this happened, my king, my queen. And they're like, okay, breathe, just chill. Okay, again, the British are coming. All right, what are we going to do? So that's the difference, is that the Queen's energy is very calm. She'll sit there and she'll take the information. And I just wanted to show you this because I think this is so cool, because we're going to be talking about the Queen. And you see that, right? She's like, all right, okay, I hear you. Carry on. The other thing is, I kind of see with her hand, when you do look at royals, they kind of go like this, like, hello, yes, hello, okay, elbow, wrist, but it doesn't, it doesn't diminish the message, though. So, again, so if you see this next to your significator, it could be someone really has an urgent message for you. One thing that I always think of is, I always see that scene in The Princess Bride where maybe someone has a lot that they have to tell you. Maybe things have been real quiet. Like if it's been kind of the high priestess for a while, or the hermit for a while, and then all of a sudden, boom, you see the Knight of Swords. It's almost like a sudden break. Again, it's like the router's wire, like someone is coming in with a message for you. The other thing is that this person's been put on a mission, because knights go on missions to bring you this message, but there's a lot they have to tell you, and it might be kind of startling. It might be a news flash, literally, figuratively. If you see this next to the Tower, it might be, oh my God, this is what's been going on. I've heard crickets, and then boom, shakalaka. He's really coming in with an urgent message. Now, the one thing I always think of is, I always think it's also almost so much, when you see the birds scattered there and the wind blowing, it's almost like there's current events that require, it's almost a mental stimulation to an extreme. It's like really quick, assertive. The other thing is, it's real fearless information. It could be a friend or a colleague telling you about something that they saw, and it can definitely online, or through social media. Maybe you're broken up with someone and it's like, oh my God, I saw your ex with a new guy, a new girl. Oh my God, someone's running in to tell you that. Sometimes it can be real decisive action. So if it's at work, but if it's being caught up on something, like maybe you've been out of the loop, someone's coming to keep you in the loop. And one scene I always think of is, I think of The Princess Bride, and I love Inigo Montoya, when he's like, Wesley's been out of it. He's been mostly dead for like a few days, and he finally, wakes back up again, and then, Inigo Montoya looks at him and he's like, let me tell you what's been going on. And he's like, there's too much. Let me sum up. Let me sum up. But it's you getting the rundown. And sometimes the rundown can be from an employee. It could be a memo. It could be, a memo that hits you, like talking about dramatic change. Maybe there's new programs. Maybe there's new stuff going. Maybe there's big announcements going on at work. A lot of times it can mean decisive action. Maybe something comes out of the blue that you have to handle. Like there's no time to deliberate about it. You have to take decisive action. It is also really powerful new ideas. Maybe you're implementing something really on the fly and you're really following through on it. The other thing is that it can be an idea that you're really passionate about. It's like something that you want to happen and that you won't take no for an answer. Now, in that same vein, it can be someone being authoritative but also overbearing. Again, there's a duality to the Knights. It can be someone who speaks with a lot of assurance, but it can be someone who's a little domineering. It's someone who commands attention, but they also kind of forces their opinions on others, because again, he's coming in, they also, they act with total certainty, but it's almost like they expect immediate compliance too. The other thing is that sometimes your idea needs to be tested. So that's another thing that plays into the Knight's kind of young attitude. Maybe you're approaching like the CEO of your company to implement a new program, but the CEO says, okay, let me think about this because he's the king, right? But you're like, no, we should do this. We should do this now. It is also someone who gives orders kind of naturally, but they don't. They kind of want their orders to be followed, right? Again, you don't see any other people in this, and the way that he kind of comes in, on fire. But it's someone who he does act in a little bit of a high-minded manner, right? Now, this really plays into the second deck. I went with the Vice Versa Tarot by Lo Scarabo. And you see the same Knight, and this is great. Now the one thing that you have to notice is that in the tarot, when something is facing towards the left, it means the past. And when it's facing towards the right, it means the future. So again, depending on the deck that you're using, and I highly encourage, if you have more than one deck, go with your intuition, because I do that a lot when I do my weekly reads. I go with the deck that I'm drawn to. The deck that I'm drawn to, and if that Knight is facing towards the right, then he's future focused. So this plays into it a lot because sometimes the Knight of Swords can be talking about events that have already occurred, right? So if he's facing towards the past, he's alerting people to something that occurred. It might have just occurred, but again, the British are coming, right? He's coming in to sound the alarm. Now you see a lot of the same red, and what I love about this deck is there's no formal card back, so the back is acting like the reverse. And what's beautiful is you do see the same birds, but you see the gray clouds. And this Knight does have a lot of red. He has a lot of passion. The other thing is you have the symbol of air on his horse, and he's full gallop, with his sword raised. So a lot of times, again, here, with the Rider-Waite-Smith, it means that he might be alerting to you to something that's happened in the past, right? But if he's facing towards the right, like in the Vice Versa Tarot, he might be forward thinking. He might be looking to the future and wanting to gallop full speed ahead. Either that, or he might be wanting to move away from the past. But a lot of times it just means it can mean like kind of the force of intellect, like someone who's very intellectual, someone who's always thinking of the future. But again, someone who's kind of young. This would be someone who's maybe in their college years. It could be someone who's really passionate about their major. Maybe they are a writer or a journalist. It can be a restlessness or a versatility. It does speak a lot of mercurial energy because this person always wants to. The other thing is this can be a young person who's in their 20s or early 30s that really likes to be in the know. They don't like to be out of the loop, right? Someone who prides themselves on being the most knowledgeable. So this can be someone who's very well book read, very literate. It can speak of diversity and communication. It can be a very gallant and very versatile, like someone who's just very flexible. So it can be someone, if you see this next to a Pentacles card, it can be someone who works in the stock market who's used to communicating about the ups and downs. Sometimes it can be a journalist. I really think that, when I see this card, sometimes I see those folks who aspire to be either, I know magazines are not as much, but you still have a lot of online content. The other thing is it can be someone who's very good at communicating the current events of something. So it can be a news anchor or someone who wants to be in that profession. The other thing is someone who's not afraid of conflict, because you see dark skies and blowing wind. It's someone who likes to run headfirst towards adversity. The other thing is that it can be a lawyer or someone who uses their word. The other thing is because you wield the sword of truth, it's the same sword that's held by justice, it's held by the King of Swords, the Queen of Swords. It's someone who's going to be a king or a queen in their own right. But the other thing is that it can be you just going up against a verbal conflict. Like maybe folks are giving you a hard time on social media and you're just like not having it, you're ready, you're ready to speak your truth and, go up against, the other thing is that I see this a lot with someone who stands up for social causes, right? So this can be an Aquarian energy as well, where you're speaking up for social injustice. You're talking about the stuff that no one wants to talk about because you need to bring it to light. And it's with all the gray clouds, especially with this card, you see all the dark clouds. You're cutting through it. You're being a champion for truth and ethics. Now, the other thing that I see is a lot of times I see this card, especially when it's going towards the future, as being the hashing it out card. If you have something that you need to hash out with somebody, and especially with the Rider-Waite-Smith, it could be with the Rider-Waite-Smith, with it being towards the past and the past orientation, this could be something that you might need to hash out something with somebody from the past, right? So, but you're ready to go. It's almost a little bit of a scrappy energy. It is a scrappy energy. Sometimes it can be a frenzy of excitement, it can be that kind of fizzle and a bang. So it can be like a verbal conflict that you're either anticipating because, again, you're wearing armor, you're ready for the fight. The other thing, and just to throw it out there, just get a little mature for a minute, sometimes if you see this next to a little bit more of a sexy card, like if you see this next to the Knight of Wands or the King of Wands, it could be that you're really hashing it out with a spouse or a lover. Like you might be talking about things and you might really be breaking it down. Like you might be talking about what happened, hashing it out, and then it is a little bit of an indicator of makeup sex, just to put it out there. You fight about it, you verbally go over all the, go by the blow by blow. Sorry, that sounded bad. Please, I might delete that. But literally, you're verbally hashing it out with somebody. The other thing is that if you see this in a family context or, something like that, you might need to kind of go off a little bit. You might be in the risk, if it's a cautionary card, you might be at risk of going off on somebody. But it does clear the air, though. It clears the air because you already see there's gray skies. This was not necessarily a healthy situation to begin with. Now, it can be, forceful intellect, or, it gets to the point. The other thing is that if you're worried about a conversation, if you manifest as the Knight of Swords, you're going to get to the point. The point is going to get to, you're going to seriously, you're going to cut to the chase, right? The other thing is that they don't mince words. That this is not a sign of a lot of monologue. Right? They're not going to sit there and go through, well, I was born in a day. It's funny, there's a writing exercise in literature that I always remember where they said, okay, write 5 pages of a story. Now take away the first 1 or 2 pages. And my writing teachers used to always say that, oh, well, I was walking out to my car and da-da-da-da-da. And she's like, no, what happened? Well, you start off the story with, I burst into the room, I threw the door open and said, I've been mugged. That's what the Knight of Swords does. He doesn't have a lot of pre-monologue. I've been mugged. You did this. I feel this. You're full of crap. Let me tell you why. He cuts to the chase. He has a forceful intellect. As you can see, I'm channeling this energy. But sometimes he can be very sarcastic. That's the other thing, is that this is where it doesn't always win you a whole lot of friends because, again, this is not a mature energy. It's not king or queen. Sometimes you can come across with a little bit of biting sarcasm. The other thing is if you see it next to the 5 of Swords, you're really cutting someone down and you're almost crowning that with like a verbal, coup de grace, like putting a verbal candle on top. But it can be a real barbed wit. It can be a wit that's that's cutting. It can also be very critical, again, and it's funny, I don't even think he meant to be, but a lot of times, if you've been antagonized, sometimes the other person deserves it, but still you kind of have to watch your mouth. there's a great line, what is it, in what is it, Mansfield Park, where someone is talking, Fanny Price's sister is going, you have a tongue as sharp as a knife, Fanny. Sometimes that can be the Knight of Swords energy. It's just, you debate. The other thing is, this is a great debater. If this is a child or a young adult who's in a debate club, oh my God. Either that, or this is just a young person that you could totally see being a lawyer. A lot of times, like my older niece, I'm like, oh my God, you need to be a lawyer someday, because the way, when we get into the reversal, we'll talk about it. But sometimes this person can be a little, again, because they're a knight and not a king, sometimes you can show a little bit of your arrogance with this energy, so you do want to be careful. But it is something that you're passionate about, because you see the red, right? You see the red. This is a cause that someone's championing. So the other thing is that it can be a cause that you're really passionate about. But a lot of times it's a cause that has different sides to it, right? Like maybe you're all for fair trade, or maybe you're all for environmental, climate control, or environmental sustainability. Maybe you're for fair taxes. Maybe you're for better education. This would be a cause that you're championing, but it's almost like you're coming in a little bit half cocked, because you're passionate about it. Now, one other thing is that you see with all this red, one good, point of politicians that they talk a lot about, and you see this in good presidents and good congressmen and good, members of the House of Delegates, is that you can be passionate. By all means, be passionate about your cause, but keep your emotions out of it. And that's where the knight is still a knight, right? He's still too young to actually keep his heart completely out of it. Now, the irony is that the other thing about the Knight of Swords is that he can be very aloof. Because it's swords, because it's of the mind, it can be someone who seems like they have no heart. Now, the knight does have a heart, but what it is it gets hidden behind his words or behind his actions, because this is someone who really maybe might be good at being a politician or a lawyer, because they come across as a little cold. And again, when you're racing in, a lot of times you may be quick to call people on things, and it makes you come across as a little bit callous, right? The other thing is that, that double-edged sword, you're very knowledgeable, you know what you're talking about, but sometimes you can be a little opinionated, that this knight thinks that they're right, and they're going to race in, They're ready to completely go round per round about the topic that they want to talk about, but they usually lack a lot of tolerance about having their opinions challenged. So a lot of times it can be a little one-sided. Again, you see this person really racing in. They're wearing armor because they want to prove their point, and only their point. They don't want, they don't, where when you get into the Queen and King, there's a little bit of a balance, right? And the other thing is, as you grow with experience, when you've gone on more missions like this, and you do become seasoned the way that a queen or a king is, you'll start to learn that compromise is very important. Yes, your goal is correct. Yes, the knowledge that you have about that goal, those facts, are important, but sometimes you have to concede, because you can't have it completely all your way. But the knight doesn't know that yet, right? He's still new, and still, he's had a few missions under his belt, but he's still learning. So a lot of times this is the person who has to have the last word. Again, with the racing horse, it's someone who's ready to do battle. They have their armor on. It's the type of fight that, the other person is likely to be a little bit of the loser, It can be a very dogmatic or close-minded person. But the other thing is that this knight is very logical, but sometimes they come across as being very unfeeling. Like they don't appear as if they're using their intuition very much. They could very well, but again, you can't see past the armor. They want to win with their verbal prowess. This can be someone who treats somebody like a number. someone who comes in. The other thing that I kind of get with this, and I did kind of see this, and not in a bad way, I really enjoyed the documentary, but the documentary about Princess Anne, it was really good. I have a whole new respect for her now. But I do think that she was so devoted to her causes, but what it was is that she was that stiff upper lip, keep calm and carry on. It's funny, in some of the footage, you saw her fall off a horse and then she'd immediately stand back up, even though she had a cracked vertebrae. She stood back up and got up on the horse. And it's one of those things where there's definitely a reason to be tough, but a lot of times you can come across as if I'm here to get this done verbally. I'm here to do the task. Nothing else matters. And that can come across as a little bit cold. The other thing is that can come up across as a little bit merciless. And we'll get into that more when we get into the reversal, but you're in it to win it, right? You're in it to do what you got to do. And again, it comes across as just, as someone who's a little cut off from their emotions. The other thing is it's someone who might put aside emotional factors, and as we get into the Queen and King, you'll see that a lot more. But what I think is most important is that when you're a page, you have no armor. When you're a knight, you put armor on. And as you learn, I think of that like a turtle in its shell. When you're young, you're a little bit vulnerable. You're still impressionable. You're still able to be forged for things, for people to reach you. When you get older into your 20s, you're starting to become more grounded in your beliefs. That's the other thing we talked about with the page, someone who's blindly going with their beliefs. The knight is blindly going with their beliefs, and they're more entrenched with them. And it almost makes them a little cut off from their emotions. It's almost like, okay, you will not reach me. I care about the goal. I care about the mental, theological, I care about getting this done. So it does, sometimes it does make it seem like somebody's pushing through an agenda that might be a little confused, but they won't take no for an answer. The other thing is that it can be kind of a steel trap mind, someone who just knows what they're going to say, and they're gonna do what they want to do. Now the third deck, and again, this was a tough competition. There were several decks that I thought about going with, but I went with the Spacious Tarot. And what I thought was lovely is that you see a crow, and they call it the explorer of wands. And he really is an explorer, right? You're not, when you're a page, you're a child and you're confined to more home. When you're a knight, you're a young adult and you can actually travel, you can drive, you can do, I also think this, another thing is that it could be if you're a high school or college student, it can be a internship in some kind of media career. It can also be a social media influencer, someone who's really gaining ground, but that has causes for things. But I love the explorer because you see a crow. You see a crow standing on a sword, and it's almost like he's balancing, right? It's like he's holding the hilt of the sword over the ledge. And you see that same really kind of gray, kind of clouded sky. But there's a lot of grays and purples in it, right? And again, it's someone that I think the beautiful thing about a crow in dream interpretation, a crow is really a harbinger of change. He's a herald of something about to metamorphosize. You see in the movies The Crow, right? He usually has, an Edgar Allan Poe, well, the Raven as well. Quote the Raven nevermore. A lot of times dark birds are seen as kind of like that deep, dark, kind of dastardly kind of message, right? Because they bring messages, and birds, you see birds bring messages. But what is really amazing about a crow or a raven is that in dream interpretation, it means the dark side of your psyche. And the psyche is the mind, it's the subconscious, right? So a lot of times, sometimes this can be the deep, dark recesses of your mind coming out. And that can be in a healthy way because it's in the upright, right? When it's in the upright, sometimes you could really be talking to someone, and you could really, when I see this card, especially with the crow, sometimes I see that as being you kind of working, you being bluntly honest with yourself. Sometimes the Knight of Swords, if you see this next to like a hermit card, sometimes you could be getting real honest with yourself. Sometimes you could be calling yourself, maybe you're championing, can't speak. You're being the champion of a cause for your own self-healing. And sometimes that requires you saying, look, that ex-boyfriend was not good for you. You held on to him too long, The other thing is sometimes it can be you telling someone off from a very deep shadowy, from the shadow side of your personality. The other thing is that maybe if you're going off on someone, maybe it really is, you know how they say that, the subconscious of the mind comes out when you're angry? What if you're telling someone off and you say something, some kind of Freudian slip, like, well, my father used to treat me the same way. I'm not going to let you treat me this way. How dare you? It's almost like an acknowledgement of projection, but it's also what you really feel. It's like it's change. It's sudden action, and it's you really allowing yourself to come out and say what you really think, even if it's not accepted, even if you really didn't even know that. The other thing I get is that sometimes when you're in a fight with something, the words that come out of your mouth are so from the deep recesses. They're it's like a wellspring from something really deep, and you're just like, what, let me tell you something. And it all comes out. And a lot of times that can be, that can help you explore what's going on with you psychologically. But a lot of times, it's not really emotionally based, though. A lot of times, the other thing that I kind of get with this is it might be the shield, and again, when it comes to the sword and the armor, these could be the words that you use to defend your psyche. Like, you're afraid of letting your emotions show. That's the other thing I kind of see, is that sometimes people get real aggressive when they have their defenses up, and their psychological defenses can be a very, very tough wall, and it can make them seem cold, because what they're doing is they're not going to let anybody get close to hurt them. So it can be someone who's been hurt before, and they're used, but the things that are coming out of their mouth are saying a lot about what they're defending, right? It's still cold, it's still defensive, but it's protecting what they hold inside. But a lot of times it is a caution, especially in the upright. It just means that if you see this with a card coming after it, it just means be careful, because you might go in a little half cocked. You might say something Freudian. You might be championing a cause that you will see no opposition to, and you might, again, the knight is not a king. You might need to be a little bit, you might want to amp down a little bit before you go in and really say something impulsively. But it is, a lot of times it is a champion, it's a leader. If you have to say something on a public forum, maybe you have to give a speech or write a speech, it's going to be a real strong one. If you have to communicate information, you're going to do it in a strong, assertive, and decisive way. It's a very clever young person. It's someone who has a lot of potential to be a lawyer, or a communicator. It can be an economist. But a lot of times I see it more of someone in the public eye. If it's someone who posts a lot, it's someone who's passionate about what they post, and they'll kind of do it impulsively. They'll say what they really think. Again, it's someone who's willing to go to battle for what they believe. A lot of times it's a very dependable and helpful person. Again, it's someone, the other thing I get is that this might be the person who always comes to you with the truth. If kind of your right-hand man, in the sense that if something's going on, they kind of have their fingers on the pulse of current events. So if you are in a leadership position, this would be your gopher person, your go-to person that tells you what's going on, and they relay the information to you in an impartial and very direct and very quick manner. You always know about it in a timely manner. But the it's an intellectual person, but it's also someone who doesn't back down from a conflict. They're not sheepish. They're not afraid to go do battle. So this could very well be a public relations person or someone who has to kind of spin something. It can be someone who helps with your personal brand. Um, but it's usually someone who has very bright thoughts and feelings and who are willing to, express them in a very energetic way. Now, when you look at the Knight of Swords in reverse, the first and foremost thing that you think is, oh my God, you're going to go off on someone and it's going to cause total havoc. The other thing that you kind of see is that it could be like harsh words that were spoken. A lot of times, the first thing that I think is a really ugly throwdown fight. And it's again those words that just come out. They're cold, they're cutting, they were meant to wound, meant to wound. So a lot of times it can be verbally cruel behavior. It can be someone who's just bragging or, really, really like. The other thing is with it being in reverse, it can be injustice and in a really bad way. It can be a bad judgment call. A lot of times it's just excessive haste. It's someone pushing through their agenda and then it just blows up and becomes an unholy mess. It can be really rash actions, or sometimes it can be a sudden departure of someone. Like if you see somebody turn in their 2 weeks notice and say, well, I'm quitting, I'm gone tomorrow, it can be a really rash departure. And usually that kind of means what you tend to expect after that is that's a little bit of showing your tail feathers, where you're not likely. The other thing is you're not likely to get hired back. You're kind of burning a bridge verbally with someone. It can be real impatience. Sometimes I see this card when, sometimes when I'm experiencing tech issues and I just get so frustrated that I just want to throw my computer out onto the front lawn. The other thing is that maybe you're not giving enough patience to someone. Maybe you're helping someone and you just, what I usually see is when I see the Knight in reverse is like, usually you want something to push through. You want to push through something and something else is going, like if you see the Knight of Swords in reverse next to like the King of Pentacles in the reverse, or maybe the Knight of Pentacles, you're trying to push through something verbally and it's going, and the physical of it or the practical of it is going as slow as molasses in January, and it's just infuriating you. Right? There's sometimes that you run into those situations. Sometimes you can be impatient with a person or a situation or a technology, or if technology is failing and it's pissing you off, that can be, it can be that sign, just like, you're ready to throw something because something is just not working. And, I kind of hear that as, okay, can you please do your job, do your job, and again, you're being sarcastic, you're being cutting, you're being blunt because you're frustrated. It can be being really bossy or pushy. And again, you think that you're right, so you're pushing through your agenda. It can be real chaotic behavior. It can be a lack of focus. I do see this as being the young adult person, maybe not a child, not like 13, maybe in your early 20s. You might be posting a bunch of crap on social media and people are starting to look at you like you're just nuts. Sometimes it can be excessive sarcasm or deceit. The other thing is that sometimes it can be deceit in a bad way, like when I see the Knight in reverse, if you see the Knight of reverse next to the Ten of Swords, I really see that as someone who was quiet for a while and then they came out of the blue and they just totally stabbed you. Maybe they said something on social media, or I do kind of see that as being like an impulsive, immature energy. The other thing is I kind of see it as an ace in the hole energy, where someone got kind of the one up on you and they used that to stab you, either publicly with a social media post or verbally by getting you on the phone and reaming you out. Sometimes it can mean that it's a time to lay low. Like if you did have kind of a verbal, run of the mouth, it might be telling you, okay, amp down, go quiet for a little while, let the waves, let the chaos kind of simmer a little bit. The other thing is that when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. When you see the sword in reverse, maybe something is just at a standstill. It could be technology that's delayed, an outage that's making your life miserable. And the only thing you can do is wait it out. So a lot of times it's just saying, okay, try to breathe, try not to get on your high horse, try to think it out. Um, you know, um, the other thing is that it's a big sign, and especially when we talked about the verbal bluntness, is it talks a lot about, you get you the colloquialism that you get more flies with honey than vinegar. So a lot of times, if you see the Knight of Swords in reverse, it's telling you you need to reamp your approach. If you go in there not caring what people think, you're not going to get any cooperation. If you go into this pushing your agenda and not listening to the other side, you're not going to be victorious. But if you give a little bit, it's not saying give up on your beliefs entirely, but it's saying listen to the other side of the story, try to find a workable compromise. You're not only contributing to your growth, you'll be less of a knight and working more towards being a queen or a king, but you'll also, you'll get out of that impulsive energy that's bringing you down. So again, if you see the knight in reverse, the other thing is that sometimes it's just not good timing. Maybe you're trying to initiate a new project and it's just not a good time. Maybe someone's opposing or upsetting your plans if you see this next to another court card. The other thing is that, the sarcasm, if you're in a sarcastic mood, it just really means that you're not in a good place to be around people. Sometimes it's, if you see the knight in reverse next to the hermit, it's telling you, okay, you need to go up to the mountaintop until chill out, go chill out before you talk to anyone, because you're going to do more damage than good. The other thing is that you might be scattered or lost in focus. What you think is right, might not be correct. So you might need a little bit of time to kind of work out. It could be after a failure of something, a failure of a project. But instead of pushing, it might be asking you to, just surrender a little bit. The other thing is that don't be a bully, is also what it's saying. Don't be a bully. The other thing is that the knight in the reverse can also be that the aftermath, maybe you did run off at the mouth. Maybe someone really angered you or triggered you and you went off. You gave them both barrels, so to speak. And you need a little bit of time, because you did wound that other person. That other person's going to be thinking, I'll tell you, that if you ever come across as the Knight of Swords in the upright or the reverse, the other person will probably remember your words for freaking forever. I can just tell you that right now. But a lot of times when it represents a person in the reverse, it usually means that someone who's bossy, a little bit of a dictator, someone who always thinks. The other thing is someone who always thinks their opinions are right. So they put their opinions above others. They don't really listen to anyone else's opinions. It can be that person who made a quick exit, or who totally just said, okay, peace, I'm out, It can be a little bit of a verbal troublemaker, someone who is always popping off at the mouth. It can be a verbally aggressive young man. It can be someone who's real toxic with their words, someone who's a bully, or you just a real verbally immature person. Sometimes it could be someone who puts their foot in their mouth, intentionally or unintentionally. One other thing, just on a medical level, because I've talked to people who have this disorder, and it's completely okay, but there's a verbal disorder that's called Tourette's, and it really is where someone can yell obscenities or just say really nasty things, and they can't help it. It's almost like a seizure. They say these things. So sometimes the knight in reverse can be a sign of that disorder. Someone who can't help but just say something nasty. Now, it can be a real sly or stealthy person, someone who purposely, pushes their agenda in kind of a clandestine way. But also in the reverse, it can be someone who's a little scatterbrained. The other thing is that, it's a little bit of a look, there's a squirrel, but it's not a childish energy. It's more of a young adult person who maybe just finds it very difficult, finds it very difficult to remain organized, or to organize their thoughts or their projects or their priorities. But whether it's in the upright or the reverse, I do like seeing this card. I do. It's the epitome of energy and action. I feel like there's forward movement, there's communication. I do see it as like someone who's fearless, someone who does not, who isn't afraid of dark skies. They'll charge in with the truth. And a lot of times when I see it in a read, I think very positively of it. But all right, so that concludes the how-to part. So we're going to go ahead and continue, and we're going to do the reading part of the video. We have 3 decks here. The first deck is the Rider-Waite-Smith with the Sunstone. The second deck is the Vice Versa Tarot with the Dalmatian Jasper. And the third deck is the Spacious Tarot with the Green Fluorite. And I'll be clarifying with the Intuit Oracle by Kimberley Fisher. I really like this deck because it's very Lenormand-esque. And what I like about it is it has very clear, it has a clear indication of what's going on, and it has keywords, and it has like 10 keywords. And I thought that was so appropriate for the night, because it's like, okay, tell me what's going on, Paul Revere, rush in with the truth, right? But I'll go ahead and give you a minute. It will go ahead and freeze frame. If you need more time, please pause the video, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back. I'm going to go ahead and move up the other decks. So let's go ahead and see. So, Rider-Waite-Smith. How does the Knight of Swords manifest in your life? Ooh, the World and then the Page of Pentacles. All right. Ooh, Justice. Ah, dang, guys. All right, we're starting this off. We're starting this off with a bang, and he's racing towards justice. Dang, y'all. All right. Current energy, please. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Future energy, please. 3 majors. And the Emperor. Oh, goodness, guys. This is crazy. This is crazy cool. I'm sorry, it's crazy cool. Please clarify. What's their... Wow. Okay. I'll come out and say, guys, it seems like there's some kind of legal matter in the past. And, yeah, we got solution. I'm going to go ahead and take that. But there's some kind of legal matter in the past that was causing you a lot of pain, and you're over it. Hashtag over it. Like little rainbow, over it. And you see the dark clouds, and you see it being upside down. And again, I do see that it might have been some kind of third-party situation, but it involves some kind of legal matter. It could quite potentially be a divorce or some kind of legal matter. I'm not seeing so much money, but I do see that it was impacting your life a whole lot. It was impacting your life a whole lot. Now, this could be someone who needs to rush in and communicate this to you, like the knight might need to rush in. But the crazy thing is right underneath the Knight of Swords, you've got the Chariot. And oh my gosh, guys, you've got 3 signs of balance here. You've got this Justice, which is the balance. She's equally balanced the scales of justice, and she's holding the sword upright. Then you've got the Chariot, which has the 2 Sphinx that are dark and light energy, like and we talked about it, like the crow being like the subconscious. And then this is a sign of moving forward. And then this is 11, this is 7, this is 21. Wow. This is a major life event, guys. What I'm getting here is it's one of 2 things. You either need to communicate, you are on the precipice of approaching someone to talk, to tell them about something that really majorly happened, and it's no holds barred. It's like, look, let me tell you what happened here. And what I'm getting is, first off, these two characters are looking straight ahead, and the Chariot is about forward movement. The Chariot is going to get where he's going. The other thing is that the Chariot, they harness the power of both the dark and the light to propel themselves forward. This is a major life thing, guys. Even though it's a Knight's energy, which is, again, we talked about it being younger, you have some kind of truth that you need to tell the world. You either need to tell someone, or somebody is going to rush up to you and tell you that this is what's been going on. And so I'll read it both ways. If this is your energy, if you're the one who's on horseback, if you're the Knight of Swords, you had some kind of legal situation, or you had some kind of marriage that really made you unhappy. The other thing is that there was some kind of legal thing that might have affected your relationships currently. But the thing is that in the past, maybe you weren't really able to speak the truth, or and as you were dealing with it, you had to keep quiet. But you're wrapping up that cycle of your life. And what you're doing is you are moving ahead. You're taking these challenges, again, the two Sphinxes, because these two Sphinxes are facing opposite directions, right? It's like, how can you go forward when you have energies going like this? This is willpower. This is willpower. And again, both of these people, so you might have had something in your past that was really challenging. It could have been a divorce or some kind of legal settlement that really, because this blocked you. Either that or some kind of third party situation blocked your justice. Like you couldn't. The other thing is that we talked about the Knight being blatantly honest. Like, he will tell you the truth. He pops the truth, like, he pops the truth. He pops out the truth like Pez. He'll tell you what's going on, but it's almost like he couldn't, because there's somebody who wants to come forward. You want to go, if this is your energy, you want to tell the truth. You want to tell the world what has been going on. Either that, or you want to tell someone what's been going on, but you haven't been able to in the past, because by you telling the truth or proclaiming justice, it would affect somebody else. There was some kind of third party situation, and the third party situation was also delaying the justice of your situation. It's almost like you couldn't come out and speak the truth because of something in the past, and it's past now, and you're moving ahead. But I'm almost getting this sense like this event. All three of these are major arcanas, but it's almost like you either have to communicate what happened to somebody else, or you're still mad. It's almost like you're still dealing with the past. This is lingering, and you're holding steady through your force of will, but you're still really kind of pissed off and angry. It's almost like you still have to, you know what it is? It's almost like you still have to deal with something that should have been long, okay, make the judgment, let it be over. Why am I still dealing with this, But it's keeping you in that kind of juvenile energy. All you want to do is move forward. Either that, or there's somebody in your life that needs to communicate this to you. Maybe you're the third party, like you're affected by something in this person's past, and all they want to do is rush up and say, look, this is what's been going on. I just, by force of will, I want to move forward. But I do see that this energy is finally getting leveled out now. But what's concerning me is that justice, once justice is served, justice is served. But what I'm seeing is the Three of Swords is blocking it. The Three of Swords in reverse. It's almost like this person is having, either you or this person is having a tough time resolving some kind of past situation that involved either legal, or I'll be honest, when you see justice come out, it can be marriage, because a lot of times it's divorce proceedings. And And it's almost like you're getting irritated again. Either your person, the person who wants to rush in and tell you about this, is really irritated that they still have to deal with this crap, or but they're handling it with a lot of willpower. Again, it's almost like they're getting the two opposing horses. They're reining them in and saying, okay, go forward. I want to go forward. I don't want to go back. I don't want to keep revisiting stuff in the past. Let it be a clear judgment call. Let it go. Let it be over with. But there is some kind of lingering. The other thing is that this is related to some kind of lingering heartbreak too. So that's what makes me think that it's either family related, or it's definitely legal related, and it seems relationship related. But in the future, you got the World, which is a really wonderful energy. It's a beautiful energy. What it is you have all four of the fixed signs, and the fixed are the get it doners. Like they're the get it done signs. So you're going to be completing a cycle. You're going to be completing a cycle. And I think your present energy is that you are angry. It's almost like the other thing is that I think that you're going to battle. You're going to battle with some kind of past thing, and you're going to see it through. Whether or not you win or lose, may not be. The other thing is that this might be some kind of legal battle that's really been drawn out. That there's just hasn't been any resolution. The other thing is that maybe it's becoming drawn out because someone is, they keep, how when you go to court about somebody, about something, the other person will not concede. They'll take it to a higher court, they'll repeal the verdict or whatever. And that can really be infuriating. The other thing is a lot of times when you repeal a verdict, sometimes you have to present new evidence that might be a little bit, kind of deformation of character. Someone might come back and say, well, no, they owe me more child support because of this and this and this. They were a bad parent, da 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 da. And it makes you angry. It's like, can we just settle this? It was painful enough when it was in the upright, and now you're just dragging this crap out. Let's just settle it. Just settle it. Let it be done. The other thing is that I think there's been some really harsh words about it too. Maybe you're defending your honor, or maybe you just had enough of how long it's taken, because I see this again. We talked about law being involved, but I think you're holding strong. Or this person, and it's almost like you're using this past experience to propel you forward, but it's hard. You have to exert a lot of willpower. But the other thing is that I think you're exerting a lot of willpower to continue to fight. You're continuing. The other thing is that you're fighting the good cause. The other thing I get from this is that you don't want to concede. You don't want to roll over because it would be unfair. But I see a really bright future in the future. You got the World, which means the completion of the cycle. It means that you're going to finally wrap up this cycle. The other thing is that when you have the four fixed signs in every corner, it means it's going to be wrapped up right. It's going to be tied up in a bow, done. This is finished. All the ink is dried, the paperwork is filed. Everyone involved is going to go on with their lives. Now, your oracle cards really support this because you see you got Whip, which is number 11. Oh my gosh, guys. That's the same number as Justice. I really think that's the synchronicity, guys. It's the same number as Justice, and it says arguments, fighting, abusive, tense, painful, anger, repeat again, over and over. I do think that maybe there was some kind of legal battle. The other thing is I get a lot of harsh words. Either that, or I get a lot of like throwing not false accusations, but a lot of throwing of accusations against someone that makes you defensive. Because the Knight of Swords is also that kind of knee-jerk reaction. We didn't talk about it in the how-to part, but sometimes it can be that knee-jerk reaction. Sometimes you see it with celebrities, when they post something and then the world goes, well, why'd you post that? That was so insensitive, da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, your wife or your husband did this, da 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 da. And then the celebrity gets angry and then goes off on a tirade. You know, they do this anger, you know, backlash post. I kind of get that from that, you know, maybe, but I do get the sense that this is legal. But what I saw was the key really wanted to come out, and the key is a solution, intelligence. Oh my gosh, guys, intelligence, which is very much genius, insight, clarity, breakout. Oh my God, if anybody symbolizes breakout, it's the freaking Knight of Swords. Liberty, unlock, helpful. So, you know, again, you know, maybe you lawyered up a little bit. That's possible. Maybe you hired a young lawyer or something. But what I'm really getting this is either your energy or the person who wants to approach you. But if this is your energy, you're at the cusp of a solution, and you're doing the right thing. The seven, the Chariot, is a Cancerian. It's a Cancer card, and it talks a lot about balance. It talks a lot about balance. And the World is a beautiful card. It really is a culmination of a very tough cycle in your life. This looks like it's been a tough cycle, but you're finding the breakout. The other thing is that your two cards are mirror cards. Like you have 11, which is 1-1, and you have 33. This is the Eight of Pentacles. Oh, the Eight of Diamonds is the Eight of Pentacles. And that really talks about hard work. It's like you've done the work, right? Like you've held strong. You've exerted your willpower. So, but I think you're standing up for yourself, and you are gonna see a really bright future. I think all of this is gonna blow over, and you know, not that this has been easy. I don't think this has been easy on you at all, but it'll be finally over and done with, and you're gonna feel a lot better. So, wow, guys, oh my gosh, that was wild. That was a wild pile. But I'm so glad. I'm glad to see the key, because I think the other thing is that I think that you've learned a lot from this experience, and things are definitely going to get much better. All right, so deck number 2, we've got the Vice Versa Tarot. And let's see, how does the Knight of Swords manifest in your life? I'm just going to give this a quick shuffle. Okay, so how does the Knight of Swords, deck number 2? Oh, wow, we got the two Sphinxes again. That's amazing. Okay. Ooh. You know, this is interesting. The Six of Wands was upright underneath this card, and you just saw me shuffle, and now it's coming out in the reverse. Okay, future energy, please. Please clarify the page. Ooh. Okay, and what happened was this started out this way, and then it flipped into the upright. So I'm gonna keep that in mind as I'm reading it. And this is an ace, and this is a page, and the Fool on top. All right, so let's go ahead and get your oracle cards. Okay, and the book wanted to pop out a little bit. Okay, wow, guys. So first off, I'm seeing a common denominator with the two Sphinxes, because in the last deck, we saw the Chariot, and in the Chariot there is the image of two Sphinx, right? If you've ever seen the movie The Never-Ending Story, you see the Sphinx is the one who asks the riddle, right? The riddle of the Sphinx. And you see the same too. So I really do think that that's a correlation. And what it kind of makes me think is, so this is a major arcana. And so in your past, you had a tower moment, but the tower moment is over, right? You see the cracked mask, and you see the two Sphinxes. And again, I think about the Chariot. I think about willpower. We talked about how I think in the past you did have a tower moment. There was a breakdown of something. It could have been a relationship. It could have been some kind of, you took the mask off, right? And and we talked about in the when we were doing the how-to part about how when the knight is facing this way, it's like facing towards the past, but when he's facing this way, it's him facing towards the future. I see here that you're facing towards the future. And again, with the two sphinxes that look like they're from the Chariot, I think you've exuded a lot of willpower. I think that you went through a breakdown of something. Maybe you had to leave a home, or maybe it was a breakdown of a job or a relationship, and what I see here is that you took it in stride, right? You took it, you saw it as an opportunity to do something else. The other thing is that cracked mask. I really get the sense that you know what I'm getting. I keep hearing I'm hearing I want to be authentic. I'm no longer afraid. There's something in your past that was some kind of script, or some kind of, it was some kind of foundation that was built, on a faulty foundation. It was not grounded. And maybe it was a sense of identity. Maybe it was a sense, it was some kind of obligation. And you were tired of that. You didn't want to be seen that way anymore. And I do think that you had some kind of tower moment. Now, the other thing is with the tower, sometimes it can be a little bit of a fall from grace. Maybe you had something that kind of made, cast you in a bad light, or, just kind of exposed you, right? Kind of exposed you. But it was an opportunity, right? Because the tower is always an opportunity. It's not a fun card, but if you let the walls crumble, if you stop trying to salvage something that's not salvageable, that's the riddle of the Sphinx, right? The other thing is that with the Sphinx, you can use your willpower to go forward, right? The only way forward is up, right? It can only get better from here, right? And the star follows the tower. But I do get a sense that there was like a crack in your sense of identity. Maybe you were living a certain way, and the foundation of that was not stable, and it came crumbling down, and I think you finally just accepted it. I think there was something kind of welcome about it too, because the commonality is that the Knight of Swords, he wears armor, but he doesn't wear masks. He's not afraid to say what he thinks. That's the other thing. I don't think you're afraid to say what you think. But I think in the past you were probably a little nervous because you were used to, what I'm almost getting is that maybe there was a family dynamic or a work dynamic. Maybe you had to be seen as a certain way, or maybe you had to be projected as like, oh, I make this much money, or I have this much affluence, or the other thing is with the knight being swords, I know this much. Maybe, you kind of projected that you were smarter than what you are. Not to say that you're dumb. That's not like that. I'm not insulting anyone here. But it was almost putting up a show. It was putting on airs. And it wasn't you. It wasn't you. And honestly, you're pretty badass. You're coming across as the Knight of Swords. Just because, and the other thing is that this mask in particular, it kind of looks like a tribal mask. And it's interesting, in my charms dish, I have this little charm that's actually, what it is it's a real, it's a sign of a South African ceremony for boys who are transitioning to being men. What they do is it's this kind of initiation. But what I see is that anytime that charm comes out in the upright, it means that you're projecting the face of your tribe, or your culture. But when I see it in the reverse, I see it as being like, I'm taking off that mask. I'm representing myself. I'm not representing anything that anybody else, you're not going to let anybody tell you what to be. And sometimes that mask can be, in that sense, when it's family, that's very honorable. But sometimes you can be raised in a certain, either raised or in a work context, you can be groomed to do something that you really don't want to do. You don't want to be perceived that way because maybe you feel like it's not on the level. Maybe you feel like it's dishonest. It's not your cause. The other thing is that you see the same cloudy sky, right? And you see kind of a sunset and then dark clouds. Wow, you guys, oh my gosh, guys, you've got you've got purple skies. Okay, we'll get to that. But what I see is in the past, it took great strength of will to take off the mask. Maybe you were, and again, you being a knight, you're a little bit further, you're not a page. Maybe in your childhood, or maybe as you were growing, you started down a path that was really trying to groom you, but it felt superficial, it didn't feel like you. And so a tower moment occurred, it cracked the mask, you took the mask off, and you want to be authentic now. You don't want to conceal what you care about, you don't want to conceal your causes, you want to be brave and say, this is what I think. But the thing is, it's going to cause conflict because it's going to be different than what you were going with in the past. The other thing is that the two Sphinxes, I do see like willpower. I think of it like the Chariot. And the Chariot is full speed ahead. It's fast movement. It's forward movement. Now, the other thing that I see here is that you see the dark skies, you see the cloud, you see the skies of war here, and you see someone wearing red. This is the Six of Wands in reverse. And what that is that's delayed victory. Either that or it's victory at a cost. Because what you see is, when you see the one side of the six, everything looks so clean and bright and victorious. But when you look at the other side, you actually see people, you see the fire still burning, and you see blood splattered people, right? So you know what I'm getting? And oh my gosh, guys, with all this smoke and stuff, is that I'm almost getting a sense that there's two ways that I can kind of read this. You're either staying, you're not letting a tower crumble, and you're staying in a mentality that's coming across as aggressive, as oppressive, and it's becoming more bloody than it needs to be. Either that or a tower moment has occurred and it's already over, and you're moving forward, or you're trying to move forward, but it's a difficult climb. It's a bloody kind of course because you really have to fight. The other thing is that it's almost like you have to be blunt. You have to be blunt to be yourself. I think it is going to be verbal conflict. I think there's going to be people wounded after this, right? Because this looks like war. It looks like verbal war. So if this is someone you're dealing with, it can be someone who's not giving up, right? Like someone who's prolonging, like they're not letting the tower fall. They're keeping the mask on, even though it's hurting people, even though they're being a bully and they're pushing their agenda. And it's just going to get really drawn out. Either that or the tower moment has already occurred and you're trying to move forward, or this person is trying to move forward, because I do see them, they're going towards the future. But it's going to be very drawn out, because maybe your culture doesn't want you to change, or maybe, I really do kind of see this as the layout of somebody who maybe was, maybe you were tapped to do something, maybe you were groomed to do something, and then in the middle you said, okay, this isn't ethical, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to change my mind. But you will be the victor, but it's going to get drawn out. You're really going to have to go to battle. You're going to have to be very unapologetically yourself, and there will be words. There's going to be a lot of words thrown around. So this could be verbal battles. It could be verbal battles with family. It could be verbal battles with a boss, or this could be like, this could be a cause that you're fighting for, where you really feel like we can't keep going the way that we're going. It's not working, just, let the foundation fall. This isn't working anymore. We got to do something different, right? And you're really pushing for that cause, but you're not going to get success overnight. It's going to be a long battle. It's going to be a long battle. Now the future looks good. You've got the Page of Pentacles, but you got it in reverse. So these are two reversals, and you see how the same color kind of transitions. And what happened is, under the Page of Pentacles in reverse, you had the Ace of Cups, and it flipped out in reverse, but then it flopped over to the upright. So I do get the sense that if this is like a breakdown of some kind of either family support or career support, you are going to start over again, because you do see a cornucopia here, but it's going to be a hard reset. The other thing is that I think you're going to start over and do something that you really do love, something that really speaks to your heart, but it is going to be a little bit of a hard reset. The other thing I'm kind of getting is that it's going to be a slow climb, right? You're going to have to earn that dollar. The other thing is that if this was a situation where maybe you took on a job with a lot of pay, but you were expected to conduct yourself in a certain way, if you bucked that, if you turned against that, then it really is going to be one of those things where you might have to start entry level in the future. You can move your way up, but it's just going to feel like you're going to feel a little bit like you were busted down to corporal. Now, one other thing that I can see is that if this is a relationship, because we do have an Ace of Cups here, is that in the past there was a really bad breakdown. It could have been because somebody was wearing a mask, somebody was not being authentically themselves, or maybe they were lying a lot. This, whatever it was, the foundation of it was not stable. And what'll happen is that maybe the other one of the other persons comes back and says, yes, I was up in my ego. I wanted a lot of attention. The other thing is I kind of get sabotage, like somebody let everything fall down, and then later they come rushing back in, like, well, I want to make this right. And what I'm kind of seeing here is that there is still love here. There's the ace is the ace is always a solid foundation. It's a beginning, but what I'm seeing here is that with the page in reverse, it's going to be very slow going. It's almost like if there was any type of betrayal or somebody acting impulsively, because that's the other thing, someone acting rashly. The Tower is sudden action. The Knight of Swords is sudden. Let me rush in and tell you how I feel. It's the other thing I kind of get is that even after this, if this is relationship related, if this person rushes, it's not going to be an instant victory. It's going to be like, okay, you've explained yourself, good for you. But it's not like they're going to ride in on their horse with fanfare like I won. It's going to be like, okay, this was drawn out, this was bloody, it didn't have to be this way. Now there is a potential for a new start, but what I also see here with the Page of Pentacles is that what I see here is that it's really going to have to be built very steadily, because again, you had one foundation that was not steady at all. That page is in the reverse. It's almost like somebody's going to have to really show. The other thing is that the Knight of Swords is all words. He's all air. He's hot air. The Page of Pentacles is actually someone who's laying the seed of a foundation. He's actually that little pentacle is the beginning of something new. And when it's in the reverse, it's almost like, okay, there's a potential here, but until you actually show this person, because if someone's rushing back into your life saying, I'm going to be real, this is going to work out, they need to show it. They need to earn trust again, and not just with words, but with actions. But what I kind of see is that, it's almost like they come in with a lot of, well, there's love here, there's love here. Okay, back that up by saying, and it doesn't have to be grand gestures. The page is a page. It's not, it's not a big gesture. But if there is love here, take the baby steps to show that there's trust as well, that this breakdown isn't going to occur again. Now, one other way that I can kind of see it is that the page can be a child, and actually with the Oracle card, you've got a child here. So it can be a new financial beginning that might, again, I kind of see you being busted down to corporal. You might have to start out at the entry level, or if this is relationship related, it might be someone who needs to come in and show in little ways. It doesn't have to be grand, but they have to show that they're reliable and that there's trust here. They have to do little things, and that's going to take a long time. You can't just jump into it, but there's still a lot of love there. Now, if this is your energy career-wise, you're going to be passionate about something new, but it's not going to pay a lot. It's almost like you have to pay your dues and start all over again. But it's going to be slow going. But the beauty of it is that this future, even though it's slow going, even though it might, you might be starting afresh, and it might feel, like, again, you feel like you're below all those mountains, but the beauty of that is that that is a new beginning, and you'll be authentically yourself, which is the Knight of Swords energy. You stated your truth, and moving forward, even though it's starting over again, you're going to be okay, because the Page of Pentacles are what you value. It's what is solid, that can be built upon, and the Ace of Cups can be your cup of love. It can be a love for what you care about, what's in your heart to do, what is right. So, again, it may not pay much, but you're going to be going down a path that makes you happy. And it's going to be, you're going to have to rebuild again. It's almost like you're starting afresh. But the other thing is, if this is a person, they got to show you, the Page in reverse. The other thing I kind of get is that maybe someone rushes back in and being like, I'm sorry that everything fell apart. And when they approach you, they're going to be saying, well, I don't have a lot of money. I'm kind of broke. What happened to me took all that I have. But there's love, And that's not to say someone has to approach you with a gift or anything like that. But they do have to show that they're willing to work to make this stable again, that they're willing to, that this isn't a mirage, that there is a promise of something, something concrete that you can build upon, right? And that's trust. It doesn't have to be money. It can be trust. It can be reliability, that it's not just words, But the one last way that I read this is that if this is a child, it could be that this was a breakdown of some kind of relationship, and it did have a lot of heated words. Somebody wants to come out and be honest and say, look, I have a kid, I have a child, but this is blocking on either a new relationship or an existing relationship, or that your priority is your child, but unfortunately you don't, you might not have a lot to give. It's going to be hard building this new foundation, with your new little one. Now, the two oracle cards you got double rainbow, and you got child, which is really amazing, guys. Double rainbow is divine intervention, duality, perfect timing, ascension, serendipity, good luck. And I do see double rainbow as divine intervention, because the tower is a blessing. A lot of people don't see it that way because it's dramatic, but if you're going down the path of something that is not for you, if something does not come along and knock over your apple cart, you're going to continue down that path, right? So a lot of times it can be divine intervention. And again, a lot of times it is a wormhole to something better. The other thing is that the Sphinx are like the High Priestess, they're the guardian of the veil. They guard the mysteries of the universe. So this does feel divine. This fall from grace might have felt kind of crappy. This breakdown of the foundation might have been kind of a hard period for you to go through. It was a tough victory. But the other thing is that in perfect timing, I also sense that if this was love related, things are going to reconvene. One other way I kind of read this is that maybe this new beginning, if this was love, maybe this beginning is delayed, but it's delayed for a good reason, because you do see a cornucopia there, which means abundance. But you see the page with their back to the turned, with their focus on the ace. Maybe someone is trying to come back to you, but they have to build their money up first, or they have to be reliable before they can approach you. So that's one other thing. But the child does mean beginnings. It means innocent, brand new, creativity, carefree. So I do, again, I know we can read it a few different ways, but, you know, again, maybe you were kind of in a position, either family or career wise, that was very inauthentic, and you listened to the divine guidance, and maybe a divine intervention did come through and give you an opportunity. You know, it would have felt like a breakdown, it would have felt like a sudden, it probably even felt like misfortune at the time, but it allowed you to take off the mask, it allowed you to be authentic. And then you had to fight for it, though, right? You had to say, this is me now. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be truthful. But it was a hard battle, and you might be starting off afresh, and it's leading to a new beginning. But I think this new beginning is allowing for a lot of creativity. It's allowing you to be yourself. um, if this is a relationship, it could be that you have a child that you care about, that you know that after this conflict, you're going to be very clear about what your priorities are moving forward. Okay, my priorities is caring for my child, my priorities is doing a job that I love to do. And you do, this will come in perfect timing. Now in the future, this new beginning might feel a little delayed. It might be giving you time to heal, or might be giving you time to get your finances kind of built up, but you are starting on a new emotional journey. If this does involve a person, then this person might be coming back to you. But I definitely see clear skies now. It's like, again, like the gray is fading away. There's no more gray. It's gonna, things are gonna get better, but it's just gonna take a little bit of time. Going to feel like a little bit of divine timing. And there may be a young one involved in this as well. But I do see with the Ace of Cups, it's going to be a good new start. It's going to be a loving new beginning, and you will be very prosperous. But the other thing is that as you move forward, definitely focus on, get your get your financial, get the physical, stay grounded is also, that's one other thing, is that all this movement, all this, the chaos of the Tower, the movement of the Knight of Swords, all the gray skies, try to stay grounded, because this has been a lot of change. But I do think that it's divine change, and you're going to be much happier going forward. It's just, it might feel a little bit slow, but there's method in the madness, is what I'm hearing. But wow, guys, oh my gosh, that was really powerful. And that's really good energy. And you got the Fool here too, guys. You got the Fool, which is also the New Beginnings card. It's the new, holy Toledo, guys. Hold on, look at this. Look at this. Look at the sunset and the New Beginnings. That's really gorgeous. And this was on top, so wow, that's really positive energy, guys. I think you have a good future ahead of you. I know it's probably felt a little chaotic, but that's the Knight of Swords. All right, so last but not least, we have the Spacious Tarot. And let's go ahead and see. So the Explorer of Swords, and this is that beautiful crow imagery. Let's go ahead and see, how does the Knight of Swords manifest in your life? Okay. Okay, the Empress almost wanted to pop out there a minute. Okay, future energy, please. Future energy, please. Future energy. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck. We'll go by the second. Oh, okay, this card really, you see it wants to slide up, so we'll go with it. Ah, oh, you got two knights. Oh, wow. Empress still wants to pop out, so I'm definitely seeing, and the Chariot, holy Toledo. The Chariot has been represented as, oh my gosh, wow. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll just take that as like a side interpretation. Wow. I'm going to go ahead and go with all 3 cards here, but wow, guys. So in the past, wow. This is some interesting energy, guys. So quite honestly, I can kind of read this. Again, we have quite a few watchers now, which I'm so grateful for. So we're going to kind of read it different ways, because you never know. Sometimes the same imagery can manifest different ways for different people. So just, take what resonates, leave the rest. But in the past, you have the Child of Swords. So we definitely have people here. We have 2 knights and a child, and then we have 2 major arcanas, and the Empress kept trying to pop out. And the Empress is also like a bird card. She has, I think she looks like an eagle. But in the past, we have the Child of Swords, which is the Page of Swords, and we just had a tarot last week. Now, the Page of Swords we talked about last week is like, sometimes the Page of Swords can be a little bit of an immature energy, not in a bad way, but it's a novice, someone who's new at information. It can also mean a child. It can mean a child who's very bright, but a lot of times it can just, it can kind of mean like a very young perception of the world, right? It's a young perception of the world. It's not as experienced as like a knight as a king or a queen. And what I'm kind of seeing is, I'm almost seeing that you're kind of grown. I'm seeing an evolution from the child to the explorer. It's because it looks like the same bird, right? It looks like the same bird. And so what I'm really getting is, I feel like you've gotten an education. I think you've gotten an education. And it's almost like you've grown a lot. I keep hearing the phrase, I'm not the same person. I'm not the same person that I used to be, right? Because here you see with the page or the child, you see the bird kind of not even looking at the sword. The sword is just there. And then the explorer, the Knight of Wands, Knight of Swords, looks like he's standing on the swords. He really looks like he's traveled, he's journeyed, right? So I think that you've come a long way. I think you've learned a lot. The other thing is that I really think that your perception of the world is different. And what I'm kind of getting is that, because your present energy in the past, you had a much younger mindset. You had a much younger mindset. Maybe I do kind of see this spread as maybe it was somebody who, um, because in a minute, we're talking about male figureheads here. We're talking about, like, you've got the Emperor and the Empress, and you got the Chariot, which is very fast moving action. So the 2 ways that I read it is that you could be dealing with a parent. You could be dealing with parents, like a father and a mother. And, in the past, this could be some kind of graduation, where, again, that the 2 ways I kind of read it is that in the past you were of a much younger mindset. You were in a much more innocent, kind of vulnerable mindset, and it's almost like you've had experiences that developed you pretty quick. And what you're kind of doing is that, before, you could have, you could be dealing with parents, like you could be dealing with a mother and father, and this might be some kind of, the thing is, with the Four of Wands, you could be dealing with a father figure, and it's related to your mother as well, that has to do with a house, or has to do with some kind of graduation. Like, maybe you've graduated, maybe you're graduating college or graduating high school, maybe you're contemplating going away for college. I know right now we're still in, if you're watching this at the time the video posts, we're still in pandemic world where not many people are leaving the house anymore, but this could really be like kind of a graduation where, um, if it's job related, maybe it's some kind of promotion where you started off in an entry level and you've really grown. And this could be in tech, it could be in communications, and you've really proven yourself. And so you definitely have the attention of either a boss or a father figure. And what's happening is the Four of Wands is like a graduation. It's like going up a level. It's like leveling up. Or it can be a marriage. If it is a marriage, this could be like either your father or a father-in-law. Like it can be an in-law. Um, but what I'm kind of seeing here is with the Explorer of Swords, you really want to be honest. You kind of want to come out and say, this is what's happening. This is what's going on with me. You know, you're championing a cause. You're speaking your truth. But what I'm kind of seeing is I'm seeing a lot of movement here, guys. I'm seeing a lot of movement, and it's almost like I do read this one of two ways. You're either a child who is growing up where you are about to graduate either school or leave a home or go on to the next stage of your life. Like maybe you're getting an apartment, maybe you're moving out, and you're really pursuing your life. And that kind of involves talking to your mother, talking to your father, or working with them, to go to that next stage of life. But the other thing that I kind of see here is that this could be that you've had a child, and this child you need to has resulted in a marriage, like, marriage and children. And it's made it where you are the emperor and you're dealing with an empress, like, mother father archetype. And you really need to, you can't, maybe things have been really on the quiet, and you need to communicate that. It's almost like you need to let the world know, okay, I'm married now, I have kids, or there's something about this relationship. The other thing that I kind of get from this is that maybe there's there's definitely a mother involved here, because the Empress kept wanting to pop out, and the Emperor and the Empress are counterparts. Um, so just one other interpretation is it's quite possible that you might be taking care of a mom. Maybe you're stepping into your emperor energy, and the fact that you're kind of the man of the house or the woman of the house. You can be a woman in the emperor energy, but the emperor is a lot of control, right? The emperor is control. And what I'm kind of seeing is I definitely kind of see that you want to be in the past. Maybe you were a little bit more, I don't want to say naive, but you weren't as assertive, right? You probably, again, you listened to what people told you, or um if you didn't take as much control over, you listened to what people told you, and you probably took direction from other people, possibly from your mother or from your spouse, um, a lot more than you gave direction, right? And what I'm seeing here is I see that you're graduating. I'm seeing a graduation. And the other thing is that we talked about in the how-to part, the Explorer of Swords is very dominant, and the Emperor is very dominant. It's the his way or the highway guy, right? So I see you graduating. You're not being passive anymore. You're wielding the sword. You've had some experience. You've grown up enough where you're like, this is what I'm gonna do. This is what we're gonna do. Let me tell you how it is. Let me tell you how we're gonna do things. And you're really kind of stepping up. You're stepping into your emperor energy and being like, this is what's going to happen. Now, the other thing is that the Four of Wands is very much a twin flame energy. It's divine masculine and divine feminine. And we've got both of them here. So it's quite possible that you could be telling, you could, it could be a situation with a, maybe in marriage you're getting a promotion at work, or you're calling the shots. You're calling the shots. And the thing is that I do get a strong sense that you also want to communicate with if you're a man watching this, I get a strong sense that you want to communicate with a divine feminine. Like you want to communicate with your counterpart. That could be your wife, could be your girlfriend, it can just be your lovey, however you label it. But there's definitely been some good changes in your life, and it's almost like you're eager to communicate that with someone, but you're taking charge of your life, and the emperor is a real good energy for that. The emperor always knows what to do. He's the king of kings, he's the leader of rulers, and he knows what he's doing. But the other thing that I kind of get from this is that maybe you've made changes in your life that have brought about a lot of positive growth. Like you've grown a lot, you've leveled up, and these were all to your own merit, right? You made the decision. You said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to pay off my house. I'm going to pay off my car. I'm going to learn this new. I'm going to specialize in this career area, and but I get the sense like you really want to communicate this to someone. So I'm sorry I'm kind of jumping around here, but I do think that you've graduated, you've leveled up, you've come a long way. I also think that you've come into your own power. You might be a little bit, you might pop off a little bit of the mouth with it, like you know what you want and you want it your way. The other thing is that you're seeing a lot of acclaim for it. Like maybe you're getting a lot of recognition for it, but you feel like you're leveling up. Maybe you're getting promotions at work, or maybe you bought a new house. But it's all because of the decisions that you've made. The other thing is, the way that I read this is that you either want to communicate to a spouse or to your counterpart. You want to share your good news, but you're going to do it in a little bit of a dogmatic way. You're going to be like, guess what? This is what we're doing. Come along with me, right? One other way that I read this is that maybe you are stepping up and being, because the explorer is a younger adult energy, but the emperor is a real father energy. It could quite potentially be that you're talking to a parent. Maybe you're talking to your father or some kind of patriarch about a house, or about the next level of your life. The other thing is that maybe you're acting as the father figure, and you're very quickly making decisions. Like you're taking direct action, because we've talked about that. You're taking direct action, you're stepping up and making decisions. And I feel like it's almost a little bit on the fly, but you're stepping up and making decisions that are good decisions. But it's almost like you feel like you're moving on up, like you feel like you're graduating. But I definitely get this sense like you're making decisions for either your mother, or you could be also making decisions for your father. So maybe you are helping out your parents, but you're being very vocal about it. Again, you're pushing your agenda. You're kind of saying, look, okay, if you want to move to another state, let's do this. Let's go to this type of community. Let's move you into here. You're being real vocal about it. You're stepping up and saying, this is what you need to do. But I think that it's making you feel more graduated. It's making you feel bigger. Either that, or you have to communicate to your counterpart. I am feeling a little bit of a separation here, though. It's almost like you're making decisions, or you're going through growth, and you need to communicate to someone else. This could be your mother, or it could be a woman that's really important to you, that like your counterpart. But I hope this makes sense, guys. This is what I'm getting. But moving forward, we got the Explorer of Wands, which is really interesting energy, because we're still in the Knight energy, and you've got another Wands card. So you're going from the Four of Wands to the Knight of Wands. So you know what? Okay, here we go. Ding, ding, ding. You are in complete control of your life right now, and you've really got a lot of good things going on. And you really, right now it's in your head, right now it's all in your head. You're making the plans, you're taking the action verbally to make this happen, but in the future you're going to take the actual actions to make it happen. It's almost like, okay, right now we're talking about what we're going to do, things are going great, this is my plan, we're going with my plan is the best, my plan's going to work. And you're working it out, but then in the future you're actually going to take the action. But the one thing that I caution is these are two knights, though. These are knights. There are no kings here. There's an emperor and an empress, which could be your parents, or it could be you and an emperor energy. But and if you're a woman watching this, what it could be is that you're kind of being I have this expression, being your own man. You're kind of being your own man. You're making your own plans. You're working it out. And in the future, you're going to take action. You're going to go ahead and make those plans real. And you're going to be full speed ahead. And in the future, it's going to make you the empress, right? But if you're a man watching this, I definitely think there is some kind of there's something you really, really, really want to communicate to someone, and you're pointing towards the future. But in the future, you're not going to be in a king's energy. You're on a mission. You are on a mission. But what you're doing is you're planning it out, and you're making sure that every single detail of this is going to be on your terms. But you are graduating. You're definitely graduating. And there's divine counterparts here, guys. There's divine masculine, divine feminine. Maybe you see a future with somebody, and you're busting tail feather to make it happen. And the other thing is you're chomping at the bit. It's almost like you want to rush it. You want to push it forward so it can happen, right? But you did get the Chariot, which has come through on every single, that's common denominator card, guys. You're full speed ahead. The other thing that I kind of get is that it's almost like you're not afraid anymore, because a lot of times the Chariot can be like that waterfall, like you going over a cliff and you don't know where it's going to lead you. But maybe you are thinking about getting married, or maybe you're really trying to go quickly to put the cornerstones in place where you can propose to someone or get married. Either that, or you're acting as the emperor. You're being the rock for your mother, because your mother has a lot of changes going on in her life. But it's full speed ahead, though, because what I see full speed ahead. You're laying the foundation, you're making the plans, and then you're going to take the action, and this is going to happen. Whatever it is that you're planning is going to happen, and you're making it happen. And all three of your oracle cards, guys, holy Toledo. Can I just say, I've never seen so much movement in my life. You got the Knight of Swords, movement. You got a Knight of Wands. That's movement with your hair on fire. You got the Chariot. That's a raging river headed for a cliff, which could be a beautiful little waterfall. It doesn't have to be anything scary. Not that you care, because you're coming across as a knight. You're probably going to go over that cliff and throw your hands up and be like, woo! Let me ride it again. Let's go again. But you got stepping stones, which is the process of arrival. And can I just say, the coloring, the lighting is the exact same. Process of arrival. How to, baby steps, keep on going, step by step. So you're making progress, right? You're making progress. And then you got head of the pack. Successful, competition, drive, get it done, lead, finishing first, dominate. Okay, dominate. First off, guys, these are all cards of domination. The Knight of Wands, he rushes in. The Knight of Swords rushes in with his words. You're going somewhere really quickly. And then the last thing is Stork, transformation, change, active, renew, restless. Maybe you're restless. I am kind of getting that. You're eager to get going. You're trying to push this forward. Arrive, depart, move. and then pregnancy and birth. Now, one thing that I can see is that when the Empress shows up, she doesn't necessarily have to mean a real baby. She can mean a real baby. It's quite possible that maybe your girlfriend, or that you're expecting. So this could be it. You know, maybe you're expecting a baby, or your girlfriend's expecting a baby. So this would be, you know, getting married, buying a house, and you would be in Emperor energy with that too, because you would be deciding, okay, you know, what house are we going to get? How are we going to pay for it? Where are we moving? That would be on your terms, and that would be very dominant energy too. And here you see stepping stones, step by step, right? And it's full speed ahead, which is the Chariot. Um, and then this could be the arrival of a baby, because that's transformation, it's change. But there's so much movement here, guys. Now, the other way that I read it too is that maybe if you are on a fast track in your career, because this could be career related, the Empress can be doesn't have to be, can be the loving creation of an idea, of a company, of a of a cause. Maybe you know, it can be a TikTok channel. It can be, you know, maybe you're really moving full speed ahead with your career path, or your path of life, and you're controlling every aspect of it, and you're excited, you're ready to go, you're enthralled by it, and it is full speed ahead. And it's like you're in the process of arrival, but you're the head of the pack, like you're ahead of the competition, you're in the lead. And then this is going to lead to change, and you know, the birth of something new for you. But the thing is that I'm definitely getting fast moving energy. All of this is fast moving, but you're currently in a position where you've had a great achievement. You've leveled up, and you were very much in control of it, though. You this was your plan. But it is almost like you have to communicate that to someone, or you're just really eager to keep that momentum going. You want to move forward. But all it says is that you know, try to go in baby steps. You know, keep on going, you know, and I don't think that you're going to stop. You got two knights here, and you got the Chariot. I think that you're going to keep on going. If you are a woman in this energy, you're headed towards a really wonderful success, and this success might be something that you feel like is your baby, right? And it's going to lead to a transformation, and you really are. You're ahead of the pack. So definitely, if you're learning something new, or you're headed on, you know, it can be career, it could be family related, but you're headed, you're full speed ahead, and you know, you're gonna finish first. You're gonna be fine. I think almost like you're pushing so hard because you want to make sure that you stay ahead of the game, you stay in first place. But this is really wonderful energy, guys. But I also get just a sense of movement, such a sense of movement. And the Empress, again, if this is your energy, you don't have to be in a relationship. Sometimes this can be the birth of a new way of life, and you're going to feel like the Empress. You're going to feel like the Empress. The other thing that I get is that it's going to be a real nurturing energy. It's going to be, you know, you looking around and just being proud of all that's grown, you know, of everything that you've watched grow. But wow, guys, that there's going to be a lot of change, but you're ready for it. You're so ready for it. It's almost like, and also what I get is that you're eager to almost like crow out loud about it. You're really ready to be vocal about it and to back that up with action. So wow, guys, that's really beautiful. That's some cool energy, you know, and just keep on going. Keep on going. Alright guys, well, I thank you so much for checking out my video. The how-tos do run a little bit longer than usual, but I thank you for stopping by. If you like my content, I would be very honored if you would like, comment, or subscribe. I will be back on Saturday with the weekly energy card reading, and I'll definitely try to do another deck review video soon. I'm trying to, you know, squeeze them in when I can. So, but I thank you again, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.